I'm Leah Myers, and I was nominated for an award back in 2013. At that time, I was going through a lot of self-awareness awakening. I had gone through a divorce, I had lost a job, and trying to find myself again and tune into what my core soul codes were and how to honor those and how to live more authentically. So it's been an unfolding process since then. And so here I am again, 7 years later. When I was nominated in 2013, I had just had my second child. And then a couple of years later, I had another child. So I went fully into the deep dive of motherhood. I also have an older son too, who's 10 years older, 3 boys. And that really kind of huge healing journey for me that I've been on with my kids. And as went through the process of motherhood, here I am thinking I'm going to be their teachers, but they have been my biggest teachers. And they have been teaching me what I need to heal. Seems as though along the journey, anytime something was triggered in me, the right healer would show up to help me kind of work through the process of healing whatever I was needing to heal at the time. So it's been a beautiful journey with my kids, and I feel like they're on this journey with me, that we're all meant to be together doing this work together, and we keep unfolding and growing. Some of the things that they've taught me along the way is that love is not control. I was raised with a lot of control and things should be a certain way, and kind of like using intimidation to get your kids to do what you wanted them to do. But they've been teaching me that love is not control, love is letting go, and love is partnership, and love is having the conversations and talking about how can we do this as partners, where are you, how are you feeling, need from me right now. And it's been so healing for me to see how I didn't get that as a kid, and how there are parts of my life that I try to control too much. They've been teaching me a lot about surrender, how to surrender to life and how to be in the chaos of life. Because of that, I have so much more flow and so much more access to creativity and to art and to my full authentic self. I mean, I think that's where they've been healing me the most, is in my creativity space. I had this incident come up. I was trying to get more into painting, and every time I would go to paint, I would hit this wall, and I couldn't figure out why I was hitting a wall. I started to watch all these videos about doing acrylic pour painting, and I was watching videos and getting materials together, and they were watching me through this whole process. And then one day I was in the other room and I heard some noise and came into my art room, and they had taken all my paints and poured it all together into this big, probably 20 different colors of paints, 2 bottles of glue, bottles of glitter, and they poured it all into this big bucket. We're watching the video and they were like, come on, mom, let's go. You're taking too much time, in your head too much. But when I saw it, I just totally freaked out. I started getting anxiety because the paint had overflowed onto the floor and it had made this huge mess. And I just went into kind of a rage around it. And so I sent them up to their rooms as I tried to process what was going on. And then I decided this was in me, something that I needed to work through. So I took their bucket of paint and started pouring it out and onto canvases. And it actually turned into really beautiful paintings. But that space was like broken in me because I had been taught, there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And I was so afraid of doing things the wrong way that it was just constipated. It was all like stuck. And my kids helped me find that place and come back into embracing the chaos of life. It's not always pretty. It opened something up in me. So I started working with healers to dig into it a little deeper. So what I discovered with the healer, I worked with somebody who does ancestral healing, and we went through my maternal and paternal ancestry lines. And what I found with my male ancestors is there was a long lineage of ancestors who had been in war, who had been on the battlefield. I had this vision of them standing like one right behind the other, like generation after generation after generation. and had discovered through research that yes, they had been involved in all of the major battles in America on the battleground. So what happened is when you're in battle, it's dangerous to feel. It's dangerous to be vulnerable. That's the last thing you want to do is to feel and let things flow. You have to stay in control above everything else, be in control of your emotions, be in control of everything. So this is kind of the pattern that was running in me when I would enter my painting space. I would come up against that block of not wanting to not be in control, not wanting to surrender and be vulnerable. Because when you're painting, you have to be totally open and available and vulnerable to feel and to step into the big black void of the unknown. And they just didn't feel safe going there. They just didn't feel comfortable. So, so in this therapy work, this ancestral healing work, I sat down with my male ancestors and I talked to them about, hey, I understand how you feel, and I'm so sorry that happened to you, and I'm so sorry that this is the way you had to live in order to survive and thrive at that time. So I had to say to these male ancestors, we're in a new space now. And the universe needs us to be creative. It needs us to be innovative and to flow and to be vulnerable and to feel things deeply, and to be open and to be connected. You know, we're not on the battleground anymore. We're not, facing the enemy, and we don't have to cut off from our emotions anymore. It's safe. Just honoring them and, really feeling compassion for what they had to go through and what it must have been like for them to have to cut off from their feeling. They were asked to be non-human. And so it just gave me this huge amount of compassion for my male ancestors and still for, males today trying to cope it without being fully connected. And the parts in me that weren't fully connected because of that history and because of my divine masculine inside that was disconnected. So I think when I received the award in 2013, you kind of feel like, hey, I've arrived a little bit, but I didn't know like the next evolution or the next phase of evolution was going to be these deep dives into, internal healing. You kind of just think you're going to have access to the full range of your humanity. But my favorite phrase along this journey has been, you can't get there till you get there. So you actually have to move through these wounds, find where these wounds exist inside and find a way to move through them. And what's interesting is when you come up against them, the right healer will show up when you're ready to help you move through those. And you keep just, unfolding into bigger and bigger potentials. I didn't realize that it was going to be, such a deep dive of internal work, but it's just, you reach the end of one cycle and then another cycle comes up, and we don't get there till we get there. It's like we have to move through these, whatever wounding or whatever is in our cells, they have to be tended to. And it's beautiful the way that life gives you the experiences you need to do that tending if you're open and available to it. So through this whole process of healing with my children and finding the right healers, I've also been doing graphic design and creative work that flows out of that, space that's opening and healing. So working on creating the logo for the Intentional Living Collective is all about the balanced and whole energies of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, or if you want to say it as the divine order and the divine flow. But as I'm working on these design projects, or whatever you want to call them, symbols, they're kind of like energetic holders of the energy that's unfolding through all of us. I feel like I'm being asked to embody the energy of those symbols. And in order to bring them through and embody them, I have to be vibrating at the same frequency that they are. So that means anything within me that's not healed or needs to be tended to, I have to do that tending. So it's been an interesting journey of healing and then bringing through art and healing and bringing through art and it continues to unfold. And it's still unfolding today as I'm working on the Intentional Living Collective graphics for our website and creating this visual language, which is all about who we are collectively, bringing our energies together collectively as a whole and what that looks like to be sovereign but interconnected at the same time. And so that brings up a whole nother wave of healing. Anything in me that doesn't want to share or anything, any space that doesn't want to be vulnerable or open or let people in or receive, all of that is being asked to be healed. Me and my children are doing it together. It's like every moment that we have together, we get to ask, or I get to ask myself, do I want to run the unconscious program? And the answer is always no, I don't. But then I don't know, I can't pull anything off a shelf. There's no recipe, there's no answer. We have to find the answer together in partnership. And that requires all of us to be vulnerable and to be open and to be fully present to each other. We're learning the language of that. What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? I'm learning how to just hold space for them when they're feeling something, not tell them, hey, don't feel that, or you shouldn't feel that, or not minimizing what they're feeling, but just saying, yeah, heck yeah, I see you're feeling that. And just affirm whatever they're feeling, not making it right or wrong. And I feel like that's a supersede, that's something new and different that we're all learning how to do, is how to be with our feelings and not make them right or wrong. They just are, and if we can invite them in and use them and accept them, they're full of information. They're messengers. They're chock full of treasure. If we can just learn how to breathe through it and sit in it, after our emotional body is allowed to feel it, then our logical body kicks in and we can start to make sense out of it. It's not like trying to make sense out of it while you're in the emotion. It's like learning a new dance. How this transition has transformed me. Um, well, it's forced me to do the work. It's forced me to go deep into the internal work and to not seek answers out there, but to really go inside and find. Your analogy of the garden is perfect. It's perfect analogy. It's your garden, and you're the only one who can tend to it. You tend to it by being willing to be in it, to look at it, and to know that anything that's dying or rotting or not thriving is because of you. It's not because of anybody else. It's your job to tend to it. And you're responsible for creating this beautiful Garden of Eden that produces fruit that everybody else can benefit from. But it doesn't come from the outside in, it's an inside out job. And it's just learning how to keep turning that energy inward and keep cultivating inward and then start to see the fruit coming out. But it's a never ending process, just like with a garden. It's not like you have one harvest and then you're done. You're constantly tending to it and learning how to nourish it in bigger and better ways. And all the feedback that you get from the outside is just telling you the state of your garden. There's some things that, it's hard to receive sometimes. You don't always want to hear from your neighbor that your tomatoes are rotten. I'm looking at it as now when I get that information, it's like, wow, I have the opportunity to make amazing prize-winning tomatoes. All I have to do is just be willing to go in there and figure it out. And it's not as hard or not as overwhelming as we think. It's just being comfortable with being uncomfortable and learning that that discomfort just means you're growing and evolving, and it's something to embrace and to honor. For one thing, it's allowing me to bring in some symbols that are in this high vibration, like the Intentional Living Collective logo. It's in that vibration of balanced energies that we can all sink into. The more clearing or tending that I can do, that I bring through these energetic anchors through graphics or through art, and then it becomes like an energetic anchor for that energy. It just kind of creates these containers where our energy can kind of come together and line up around, and we can do this kind of work together. We don't have to be out there alone doing it. We can be drawn to it and do it together as a collective. So we all are, creating this huge, basically heaven on earth, I think is totally possible when we're all tuned in and doing our work and helping each other tend each other's gardens is what we're doing. We're helping each other tend each other's gardens. And when somebody shows up in the community and says, I just found some rotten fruit, it's like, hey, I've got some fertilizer, or I've got some water, or I've got this might help. And then just helping them, you're not doing the work for them, but you're giving them tools and resources and all the connections they need to have a thriving garden. And we're, create this beautiful connected community where we're all doing our work, but we're all feeling very supported and connected in doing that work. So it makes it so much easier. And you feel that support, when I know, hey, I've got rotten fruit here and I got to get to the bottom of what's going on. I know I can call in 10 gardeners, and ask them for their advice. And I know they're going to give me beautiful advice, and most of it's going to work. I might have to tweak it to fit me, to customize it, but it's just makes it so much easier. It's learning how to find the balance within myself of surrender and control. So it's the divine feminine and the divine masculine together that opens that portal, learning how to surrender to divine flow. And that's where the feeling or emotional part comes in. It's so important to be emotionally available so that you're bringing in all the information. But then once it's dropped, or once it's landed through the feminine surrender, then you have to apply your divine masculine order to it to make sense out of it. And so that is like bringing light down into these denser and denser forms. So when we go into graphics or symbols, it's just a denser form of light that kind of anchors and holds the energy for us in a way that we can see it or feel it. It makes it more tangible. Once we can kind of feel it, then we can all get involved in grounding it even deeper into our bodies, into our communities, into our relationships, and into our environment. It's really the full exercise of exploring and experiencing the fullness of what it means to be human, and not allowing yourself to get limited on either spectrum. So allowing yourself to be fully divine feminine, fully divine flow, fully divine surrender, and also allowing yourself to be fully masculine, fully control, and full order and density, and honoring and valuing each stage of that. So every time I, go into graphic design and bringing a symbol through for us, I'm exercising the fullness of my humanity and experiencing the full spectrum. So it's something I think, we all can do. It's an instrument that we have. We're meant to be divine creators. That's
Yeah.
what we're meant to do. And we're meant to be bringing light down into form. We've
Hmm.
just become disconnected. I would say we've become disconnected from the surrender and the feeling emotional body part of it. So a lot of what we produce isn't always connected in the deepest way that it could be, and that comes through the surrender. I believe the Creative Emergence Center is being born through this whole unfolding process, but the Creative Emergence Center is going to be a program of the Intentional Living Collective. The purpose is to nurture and cultivate the creative heart and soul of the community. And so, as I'm going through this process and learning what I need, I'm also learning what to put into the program. As I'm learning what my children need to stay in their creativity, I'm learning, how to honor and how to give them what they need for the program. So the program is kind of writing itself through this whole process from to end. So right now, I am doing a lot of design work, laying all the pieces, foundational pieces in place. But as soon as the website is launched and things are underway, I'll be able to really dig in deep and start offering classes and circles and all sorts of fun offerings to nurture and cultivate the creative soul of our community. I'll be able to find me and the program through the Intentional Living Collective and the Intentional Living Collective website. I think we're all learning how to balance our energies so that we can become these divine creators that we're meant to be. I think we all feel drawn to that, especially now. Now is the time to be innovative with our solutions and being the divine creators we're meant to be. So hopefully this will be a beautiful container to hold that energy and allow everyone to find the resources and the support they need, bring forth the light they're meant to bring forth here at this time. It's an incredible time in history. And I believe that all the sacred creators are being called, and we're going to be creating a space for everyone to come and get support as they move into that process, because it is a daunting process and we can't get there till we get there. And we have these, internal blocks to heal and move through, and it all comes up in your creative space. So we have this huge network. If you hit a block, we have the right healers we can connect you to. And this is super exciting. I'm very excited to see how it all unfolds collectively. The answer is to not see it as separate, that your life's work is your children, and you're healing and growing, evolving together, and there's no other space that's going to give you a clearer mirror than looking into your children, because they will show you exactly who you are and what you need to work on. And it's all directly related to your core essence and what you're meant to do here in this world. So there's opportunity to create material around that, using the gift of parenting to find those answers and to do that healing, because it's such an essential piece. We are healing 7 generations behind us and 7 generations ahead of us. So we are walking ancestors to our next 7 generations. So if we can do this parenting consciously with that understanding, we're superseding the future in a very intentional, conscious way. You're digging up the stuff that's no longer serving and you're putting new seeds in. So you're going through that process of weeding the old and planting the new, and really determining together with your children, what do you want to seed together? What does that healthy pattern look like, and why, and where are we go? It's just chock full of opportunity. What I gain most is myself. And there's nothing, like, I could lose anything in the world. There's nothing worse to lose than yourself. That is the gift. That's the gift of this collective. It gives you what you need to go in and find your core essence self, and to bring that out for the world, to share those gifts with the universe so that we can all benefit. I think it's important to let people know that this journey may not look exactly the way you think it's going to look on the other side. It's a lot of hard internal work,